Hey, what's up, Instagram? It's Captain Greg Cudnick at Fisherman's headquarters. Wanted to check in and say hello, see how you guys are doing. Hopefully your Tuesday evening is going splendid. So I just wanted to check in, say what's up. I had a few things to share. I got a little bit of news, nothing spectacular, but maybe somebody wants to hear a thing or two. So there's a product we've been waiting for a long time, and it's the 96-inch Rhodan trolling motor, aka GPS Anchor. Just got heads up today from the Rhodan crew, Eric and Mary, awesome people out there in Florida. I should say down there in Florida. The 96-inch unit we've been waiting for potentially 1 to 2 years, I would say. First heard rumor of it maybe 2 iCasts ago, so that's not this past summer, but the summer before that. This whole entire winter we've been hearing month out, and finally today I got word. We put a fresh order in for a couple units for some local customers getting some, and kind of got basically the cat's out of the bag that there's some 96-inch units shipping to us potentially in 1 to 2 weeks. So I'm pretty stoked on that. Anybody that knows anything about trolling motors, there's basically 2 main brands out there. Personally, I own a Rhodan. I think they're the real deal. They put out more thrust, and I think they're built better, and they have much better customer service. So if anybody's looking to rig up with a trolling motor, GPS Anchor, depending on what you're looking for, there's lots of options, lots of power options, lots of lengths. But if you're looking to rig one up on a larger boat, Rhodan is the way to go. 96-inch unit, it's going to be the biggest on the market. 36-volt system, that's 3 batteries, puts out 120 pounds of thrust. Total game changer if you've got a larger boat. 8,000-pound boat, 10,000-pound boat, no problem. This isn't a trolling motor made for freshwater, dilly-dallying in lakes. That's cool and all, but Rhodan is a saltwater group of anglers. They're manufactured, designed. They're straight up saltwater units. So if you guys want to get information on them, you want to rig up, feel free to reach out. Give me a call, send a message. Love to help you out. I've got a unit personally myself. I've outfitted a number of boats this winter. Every customer's been very, very happy, and I'm already looking forward to getting more and more reports this spring as some new customers that haven't just outfitted recently start sharing some feedback. So I'm looking forward to a lot of good stuff coming in there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm not sure how long or short this session will be. Feel free to throw a question my way. Got a couple things I wanted to talk about other than that Rhodan 96-inch unit. We had a pretty big gnarly storm here. It was yesterday. Yeah, Monday. Pretty crazy, actually. I'm sure everybody else that was kind of on the eastern seaboard kind of got a little taste of that. It was definitely a gnarly blow out of the south. Definitely kind of came out of nowhere. I know the forecasts were calling for it to blow. I kind of saw some 70-mile-an-hour winds, which are kind of like, hey, there's some hairy stuff coming. But it was the real deal for sure. House was shaking. I'm sure people saw damage in the local area. We definitely had our local business sign, right out front, our Fisherman's headquarters sign. It survived Sandy, but it did not survive whatever you want to call this blow, the Monday after Easter blow. It was definitely the real deal. Took the sign out. I know soffitting, gutters, lots of siding on people's houses got ripped off here in the area. I definitely know I saw a roof in Ship Bottom that kind of got peeled back and tossed, and I kind of feel for those people. It really sucks, especially when a lot of these insurance companies' deductibles are super, super high. You find out after the fact that your insurance doesn't really do much. Insurance really is insurance when you have a $10,000 wind deductible. $10,000 is a lot of damage. So I definitely feel for those people, especially in this time of need. It's a major bummer. Especially there's that, I just saw, I guess it was yesterday, a marina down in South Jersey that had some serious damage there. Super, super major bummer. So to jump out, off the topic of that, I've got a lot of messages about mono and fluorocarbon. So I just wanted to kind of give a little taste of that, and I'll also kind of share a couple things in terms of the access on LBI, which is another thing we get a lot of questions about. I figured if one person asks a question, it's quick and easy to send one message back or two or three. But when you get dozens and dozens of messages, it seems like every day or every couple days about the same topic, I'm kind of taking note of them and I'm kind of putting them down, and it's kind of an idea for me to reach out and, kind of make note and say, hey, maybe I should talk about this and help other people out. So if anybody doesn't know about monofilament and fluorocarbon, give you a quick rundown. Basically, monofilament fishing line, most of the time is made out of nylon. It's been around for a long, long time. I'm sure everyone's fished monofilament line before. It's definitely got a lot of stretch to it. It is, depending on the brand and depending on the formula, there's different kind of concoctions or recipes. Sometimes they'll be called copolymers. Don't want to get into this too in depth, but there's different formulas, and certain manufacturers make a little harder, a little softer, a little, say, easier to cast, a little less memory. Some have more memory, a little more springy. Monofilament is traditionally much, much more affordable, and it's pretty user-friendly. Say a first-time angler or inexperienced angler can jump into a monofilament line and spool up, put it on themselves pretty easily, and fish it pretty easily with no problems. I'll start talking a little bit about braid, but I also would touch on fluorocarbon too. Braided line is definitely going to give you a lot of advantages. It's going to allow you to scale down your tackle because it's a much thinner line. It's very much stronger for the pound test, and stronger in terms of abrasion resistance. Kind of it's up for debate. So monofilament, in my opinion, has much, much better abrasion resistance. The braided line for diameter is much, much thinner and stronger. And there's obviously different manufacturers of different monos, different manufacturers of braid, and somewhat they're all somewhat good. I don't want to be partial and say one's better than the other, but personally, I fish Cortland. Shout out to Cortland, great line company. They make some good stuff. I personally don't fish Power Pro, which is probably the most popular. I know a lot of people do. They love it. Personally, I don't. Another one I like is Invisibraid. Suffix is also good. Invisibraid is made by Spiderwire. But basically, if you are looking for a more sensitive fishing line, if you're, let's say, fishing lures or bucktails, jigs, you're casting or retrieving, you want to stay in contact with that lure a little more effectively, braided line will help you with that. Braided line will somewhat reduce the belly because it's thinner. It will kind of cut through the water a little bit better, and it will stay in contact with that lure that you're fishing. Belly or slack in your line when you're retrieving is kind of like the devil when you're fishing a lure. One, it reduces that slack, reduces your ability to set the hook. It also reduces your ability to kind of feel and know what's going on at that specific point in time. A lot of times you'll see, if you're watching an angler next to you with a big belly in the line, a big slack kind of drooping into your, I'll call it zone, or the neighboring angler's zone. Sometimes you'll see a fish come up on a popper and the person might not have seen it, and they don't even feel it. They don't even know they even got somewhat of a sniff or a touch or a, kind of a shake, a head shake or a tail slap or something like that. And sometimes you'll catch it out of the corner of your eye. You'll see it happen. And it's those times where a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of times when you don't have that belly is when a fish comes up. A lot of times they'll actually get hooked up on that first strike or that first slap, or head kind of nod, and they kind of go up and hit it with their snout. Where you have belly, you don't have the ability to set that hook, or that hook doesn't penetrate because it's not being, there's no tension there. There's the slack, it almost works like a spring. The fish kind of comes up, nudges it. It kind of just gets the hooks that kind of just scrape across its face or right out of its mouth. But it seems to me that if you fish a braided line, if you know how to control your line and get that slack out, to me, I think that's a much more effective way to get fish on that first strike. More so than that, with fishing jigs, you can fish lighter jigs, bottom fishing with weights. Depending on what application you have, braided line can give you a lot of advantages. With that said, there's definitely some things that need to be taken into account with braid in terms of spooling, in terms of fishing a leader, because like I mentioned, I don't believe it's as abrasion resistant. I wish I had some braid here. I'm just at home office. I wish I had some braided line to show you a trick. It's anybody who stopped by the shop may have seen it before, but I kind of have like this somewhat of a joke that you can break 200 or 300 pound Spectra braid with your bare hands, and most people are like, "Oh, you're crazy, you're nuts." But maybe I'll get some braid and I'll show it to you on another Instagram live kind of chat session. So with that said, braided line is very, very strong. It is not good with abrasion and it's not good with heat. That being said, braided line is, in my opinion, the way to fish. If you are looking to, I'll say, up your game. Going from braid back to mono is definitely, it's almost like you're putting the training wheels back on. You start feeling this slack, this sensation that you were like, wow, how did I live with all this? And you lose that sensitivity, you lose a lot of the advantages that braided line gives you. So anybody wants to learn a little more about braid, feel free to call the shop. Feel free to stop in the shop once this quarantine is over. I'd love to talk to you one-on-one, show you different lines, and give you kind of an idea of what you could potentially do with your existing setup. Kind of re-rigging it and keeping the exact rod and reel you have and stepping into, say, the world of braided line. That being said, I want to talk a little about fluorocarbon. So I don't believe every application calls for fluorocarbon. However, there are some times where I believe fluorocarbon is paramount. Clean water and very good sunny, clear days with clear water, and fish that have good eyesight are kind of like the three things that kind of come together and really make me want to fish fluoro or demand that I fish fluoro on those days. There's a couple other things that come together in my mind when I'm in preparation kind of stages, getting things together. But I do not fish fluoro all the time. Why? It's expensive. I don't seem cheap, but $15 for a spool leader, it's not always necessary. You could spend $3, $4, $5 on a spool of nylon monofilament and get the job done. So nylon monofilament absorbs water. Nylon monofilament stretches much, much more than fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon does not absorb water. It's much, much more dense. And because it's more dense, it does sink, does not absorb water. It's much more abrasion resistant. And it's also, we'll call it invisible in the water or invisible to fish. So no one really knows what fish see, so I don't want to claim it, fish don't see it. But the main thing that fluorocarbon gives you is the same refractive index as water. So basically, what it does is when light penetrates the water and gets into the water column, the light, how it goes through the water, it also penetrates the fluorocarbon leader line the same way, which is supposed to mean that it's invisible. If you've ever taken, or if you want to try it sometime, get some really light stuff like 10 pound or lighter and put it in a cup of water, and try to get the same pound test in regular monofilament, and put it in water and just kind of hold them up tight against each other, and you'll see that the one is much more invisible side by side. If you want to do that little experiment, try it out. I probably should have prepped and had it here for you guys, just like that 200 pound kind of breaking thing in my hands, but maybe that'll be for another video. So basically, to answer some of the questions is, do you need fluorocarbon for fluke fishing, just tying up some leaders? Personal opinion, no. Do I fluke fish with fluorocarbon? I'm gonna say sometimes. It's really not like a black and white answer, but the reason for this is I feel that if I'm fishing, let's say in the ocean, where I might be using like a 40 pound leader, sometimes I'll snell up some hooks with 40 pound. I really don't think it's necessary to fish, personally. In the bay, however, I start going down to like some 15 pound, 20 pound. I want a little more abrasion resistance. So sometimes I will fish fluorocarbon in the bay because I like that little harder, more abrasion resistant leader. So that's a couple of my ideas, a couple of my reasonings why. I definitely do fish fluorocarbon somewhat regularly when I'm fishing for bluefish, which are toothy critters, I'm looking for a little harder line, a little more abrasion resistant line. I don't think bluefish are line shy, so I'm not using it for that kind of advantage. I'm using it for the other advantage. And I think some of those other advantages get overlooked most of the time when people choose to fish fluoro. Now, if money's no object, and you want to, obviously put, if you value your time as most do, and you want to put your kind of money where your mouth is and invest in your time and buy the best leader material for your fishing trip, I'm not going to say don't fish fluorocarbon. I mean, by all means, fluorocarbon is not going to do you wrong. It is somewhat harder. It's definitely more dense and harder. So you have to take note that your knots are seated properly. Definitely make sure they're cinched down. You can do that a couple different ways, whether you're rigging up and fishing at that moment, or if you're potentially rigging up in preparation, let's say now in quarantine, tying some rigs, and then you might not fish for a month or two. It's very important to pull those knots tight in fluorocarbon down the road when you're about to fish them. Always test your knots. The best way to prevent breakage is to test it before you fish it. It's something big game anglers do regularly, religiously, and it's just, if you can find your weak point, you're going to kind of shake it out of the scenario, or you shake it out of the equation beforehand rather than letting the fish kind of find it. So if you cinch down some knots, always check them out, always wet them. When I say check them out, look at them to make sure they're seated properly, they're cinched down, they look good. Anything doesn't look good, looks suspect, cut it, retie it. It's a no-brainer. Don't waste your time playing around with bad knots. Personal opinion in terms of knots with leader material, I really like tying the uni knot with fluorocarbon because a uni knot tends to cinch down on just about any kind of thicker diameter line. I mean, a uni knot will cinch down even like 80-pound leader material. Above 80, I really like to crimp. Even 80-pound and up, I tend to crimp 80 and 100 and up. Crimping's a whole nother ball game. Maybe we could do a talk about crimping, proper crimps. I can tell you there is a blog on our fishinglbi.com WordPress blog site. It was written by Captain Jeff Warford, Real Innovation Sport Fishing. It's about the art of crimping. So if you guys want to learn and dive in a little bit about crimping, if you're into tuna fishing, shark fishing, any sort of big game, maybe you're down not in, say, in the local fisherman's headquarters area in New Jersey. Maybe you're down in Florida or the central East Coast or maybe the West Coast. I don't know where people are logging in from. But crimping is a very, very important kind of part of the equation that you really should know how to properly do. So if you want to check that out, it's just go to our blog, fishinglbi.com, give a search and look up Art of Crimping, or just Crimping, it should come up. Captain Jeff Warford wrote that article. It's probably a year or two old, still very, very relevant. The art of crimping has not changed in the past couple years, but it's still very important. It's probably one of the most important parts of big game fishing, other than making sure your other tackle is together. One crimp, one swage, bad, and fish, goodbye. It's really as easy as that. So you spend all the money in gas, spend all the money in tackle, head out, got a bunk crimp, or somebody in the boat had no idea what they were doing and kind of ruined it for everybody, whether it's the only fish of the day, or it could have been the biggest fish of the day, or biggest fish of the season, year, life, what have you. So if you want to learn a little about crimping, definitely check out that blog. He talks about the proper crimps, like matching up the crimp to the line. You want it snug. You don't want too much play in there. Talks about matching up the crimper to the crimp, meaning if you have a wide crimp, you want to make sure that you have a wider crimper or crimping tool or swaging tool. If you have a very narrow crimp, or sleeves as they're called sometimes, you want a more narrow jaw face, the face of the crimping tool, so it does not crimp over the sides. You most of the time want a crimp that would kind of look like that, where it's kind of feathered and flared out on the ends. You never want to crimp down on the ends. Jeff also, Captain Jeff in this article, also touches on a couple other points in that article where he talks about burning the monofilament. the tag end to kind of mushroom it out, kind of melts it with a lighter, which is a very, very good tip. And he also kind of gets a little bit anal with a Sharpie marker and stuff like that. Some anglers like to take that jewelry, that silver shine off, just kind of take the jewelry off. Some anglers also do it with hooks. They'll get a black hook. Sometimes they'll sharpen it up and they'll magic marker it. There's a little bit of debate out there in regards to that, but I don't want to go into it too much. But most guys sharpen hooks, and they'll use that Sharpie marker to designate, so they know, hey, that hook was sharpened. But it also puts a little bit of a finish, that Sharpie marker finish, to prevent some corrosion on there. Where when I said a second ago, there's some arguments and some debate about it. Some Sharpie markers, or should I say some permanent markers, Sharpie is one particular, have some sort of chemical that is part of that ink that they use that can potentially react with the metal. I've never heard of a legit problem where somebody does it and the tip snaps off or something like that, but Sharpie markers, magic markers, permanent markers have been used for many, many years to kind of mark the tip after it was sharpened on a hook. So if you guys do sharpen hooks and you're like, hey, how do I keep track of it? Which were sharpened, which weren't? It's a good idea. While we're on the topic of sharpening hooks, it is springtime and there's fish around. It's definitely a good time to sharpen your hooks. If you got some rusty hooks, now would be a good time to replace those hooks. Definitely don't want to kind of scramble, get the call, hey guys, the fishing's teeing off, let's go out tomorrow, and hop in the boat with a buddy, maybe family member while you're in quarantine, or go out solo and toss out your favorite lure from last year or one of your MVPs it's been doing good for you over many years, and find out that first or second fish either snaps one of the hooks off or some sort of failure. So check your split rings, check your treble hooks. If you need some new ones, give us a shout. We'll ship them out to you, no problem. We probably have some of the best prices on VMC treble hooks that you'll find. We get them in large bulk packs and we break them down. So if you're looking for like a 25 pack of VMCs, I think you'll be shocked if you look on our website and see the price of them. Super, super good deal. So I will browse through these kind of comments here, messages, see if anybody has any messages. If you guys don't have any questions, that's awesome. If you do, fire them at me. Who Benton, what's up? Thank you so much for coming to the saltwater soiree and jamming out. That was an awesome time. Definitely a memory that I have that kind of is like the kickoff of this whole quarantine. It was pretty bummed out. It was definitely a very depressing situation with those fishing shows being canceled. I guess it was the right thing to do in hindsight. I was stoked that we got that little soiree together. We had a nice little sidewalk sale. I was stoked that you came and jammed out. We all had a really good time. So shout out to Who Benton. Anybody looking for some good jams, get on Who Benton. Check out his tunes. He's got the good stuff. So just kind of roll through here. It doesn't seem like there's many questions firing out, which is kind of cool. It's kind of late, and I wasn't really looking forward to answering too many questions, but I'm here. What's up, Blake? Cedar on Lures, Blake's in the house. So yeah, I really wasn't looking to answer too many questions. It was kind of late. I got to get a couple things done on the computer, which just kind of like the daily grind, but kind of go flip through here a little bit. So Connor asks, do you know when you're getting clams? No. So fresh bait situation has been sort of a pickle. We just got some fresh bunker in today. We've been doing our best to keep crabs, live crabs, green crabs, and white crabs for tog anglers in stock. We've been trying for a couple weeks now to get fresh clam, and it's been a struggle. You were a question asked about surf clam, and we've not been able to get live surf clam in the shell. We do have access to chowder clams, the local bay clams. They're somewhat of a pain to shuck. Some years we do bring some in as like kind of an emergency clam thing. We just load it up on salted pints. They aren't cheap, but they kind of get the job done. Anglers that are going out in the boat sometimes bring frozen, which tend to be a little mushy for those anglers that are casting off of the bank or beach. But yeah, frozen clam can work in the boat. I'm not the biggest fan of the clam thread, but some people use frozen clam and clam thread. I'd much rather go the salted clam route, just my personal opinion. But to answer your question, no, we do not have salted right now. We are trying, and I'm sure right when they do become available, probably no one will want them. The drum bite will probably be over. The spring kind of clam bite will probably be over. Everybody will be fishing bunker. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. It's in the fishing world, it's feast or famine. Everybody wants what you can't get, and when you can get it, nobody wants it. So I guess that's just life. So sorry about that. I apologize. We can't get clam. It's just basically a shortage. I can tell you that the fishery is very, very poor. Surf clams are somewhat of a dying breed. They are just not growing as quick as they need to be. A lot of these clam beds are overfished. And I have to say that the clam situation in the, say, near future does not look good. The ocean kind of edible clams, which obviously are surf clams too, are all going elsewhere. They're going to processing for eating, Campbell's and whatnot. They're on lockdown. By federal regulation, we cannot sell those. We have to sell clams that come out of condemned waters, just for heads up. So those clams, it seems like the guys are hitting them hard, but we just, for some reason, can't get access to them. That being said, the condemned water clams, those clam beds that are kind of in certain areas, a lot of the boats go out of Belford. There's some boats out of Long Island that clam for us, for different bait suppliers and different shops. Definitely been struggling over the last few years. Amir Whitmer says, will you install the motor? So no, we are a retailer of Rhodan. We do not install. I'm more than happy to share guidance and suggestions and any kind of help I can be in the buying process from A to Z, as well as the rigging process and getting things together, the essentials. Anything I can help you out with there. As in terms of wiring it up and mounting it, I would suggest you contact your local marine center or marina service center. Local one here is Shears Boat Basin in Barnegat. They are the experts, in my opinion, in the area at doing repowers, boat outfitting, whether it's electronics, whether it's fiberglass work, whether it's new motor. If you've got any kind of boat demands, any kind of boat love needs some attention, from A to Z, give the guys at Shears a call. Captain Adam Shear runs a type ship over there. He does some awesome work. He's done work for me. I personally installed my own unit. It's not rocket science. Some people can get in there and do it themselves. Some people don't want to take a drill to their boat. I get it. It was kind of scary putting a drill through my 3-year-old boat, and wasn't sure kind of what I was doing, but kind of went for it. Measure twice, drill once. So no, we do not install, but we can definitely give you some guidance, and I would strongly suggest, like I said, reaching out to your local marina. Wolfie, what's up? How we doing? He's the main man cranking out the reels at the shop, Steven Wolfschmidt. He is the Penn reel tech at the shop. Anybody looking for reel service, give us a shout. I put a post up, I guess it was yesterday, the day before, some reels that Steve was working on. If you get a second, we're done with this. Check them out. You will see that there's some gnarly corrosion on some reels that come in the shop. Some customers do not clean their equipment. Some maybe clean it on occasion, not enough. Not saying you have to go overboard and dunk your equipment and really, douse it with water. It's just try to stay in a routine maintenance kind of schedule. Try to check up on things. Try to take covers off and try to poke around. Don't be shy to kind of get in there with like a little bit of WD-40 on a rag and wipe them down. I mean, water and a little spray does a little bit, but it doesn't do much. In my opinion, a light spray with some WD-40 or CRC or some light oil and a wipe down does a lot to giving kind of like an oil barrier. One, it cleans and polishes the reel, but also gives a little bit of an oil barrier, a light finish to keep those elements kind of out of the small little minute scratches and imperfections and impurities in the metal or in the anodization, which eventually lead to pitting. So shout out to Steve-O. He does awesome work. You'll see some photos of some reels where he took some side plates off and you see just corrosion all over the place. Salt, sand, rusted bearings. One of the photos was an anti-reverse roller bearing. Customer brought the reel in, said, hey, my reel's grinding. It sounds really gnarly. Most of the time, a loud reel, a rough riding reel is going to be a bearing. Bearings are one of the most expensive parts in a reel other than the body and the rotor and the spool and the gears. Obviously the handle too. But bearings are one of the most important things. They are what supports the reel, what supports the gears, and what kind of holds everything together and keeps those gears meshing properly and in line. Most of the time, reels that get wet kind of sit around a little bit, those bearings rust up. That being said, one of the most common places to look for rust on the bearings would be your anti-reverse roller bearing. They always, 99% of the time, unless you've got a magnetic clutch system, I think Quantum was dipping and diving in that at one time. Most of the time, these clutches, these anti-reverse roller bearings, are a steel needle bearings. And that steel, as everyone knows, rusts. So people say, oh, those bearings are cheap. It's not really the fact that they're cheap. It's the fact that steel needle bearings are an essential part of a reel's anti-reverse system, at least a spinning reel. The old school dog and ratchet, which has been used for many, many years, is good. It's definitely much better with salt and water exposure over a long-term period of time because it can handle that. It doesn't rust out. But you get that kind of back slap when you retrieve that rotor slap, slap, slap. If you're fishing a pencil popper or a bucktail, you'll really get annoyed with that slap, slap, slap. The old Penn Z's, the old BG reels, all very, very common. You would feel that slop, that back slap. That's that anti-reverse, that dog and ratchet kind of slapping back on itself. But sorry, I got a little off topic, started diving into some reel talk. But shout out to Steve-O. If you guys need reel serviced, reach out to us, send him in. A. Shear says, we talking trolling motors. I wasn't really planning on it. I just wanted to let everybody know the 96-inch unit, which is going to be the world's largest trolling motor, longest length and most powerful, is coming. We've got a waiting list. I want to say we have 6 customers that are paid up in full. They're coming. I'm told between 1 to 2 weeks, at most 3 weeks. That was just this afternoon from Mary at Rhodan. Thank you so much, Mary, for that information. And for those anglers, I believe I reached out to you already. Everyone should have got the heads up saying, hey, there's an update. I just got word, so I shared it. There's some 96-inch units coming. This is no joke. These are units that are made for larger vessels. I've got a 21-foot boat. Trolling motors are out there, work fine for me. Some 23-foot boats, 25-foot boats, 27-foot boats. The motors that are on the market really don't work for larger vessels. Once you start getting into that 25, 27, 28, 30-foot vessels, we're even talking 30 and 32-foot vessels that these are going to work on. What it's going to do, that extra length going to 96 inches, is going to allow a vessel that is, let's say, 25 foot, that might have 40 inches of distance from the water level to their gunnel on the bow, we'll call it bow height, allow them to fish in 3 to 4 foot seas. It's something that I can just about do in my 21 footer. I would say I have an 84-inch shaft. I have the 36 volt, 84-inch shaft, 21-foot Parker. The limitation for me is about 3-foot chop. It gets a little more than 3 foot. You get the buckingness of the boat. It's somewhat of a sensation you're not used to feeling if you've never fished with a GPS Anchor before, or a trolling motor, where the boat almost ramps up and it accelerates as it goes up a wave, almost ramping up like you would on a BMX bike or dirt bike of sorts. Sensation you're really not used to because you're actually motoring into that current, but then up a wave, where when you're anchored, that bow is being held down by your anchor rods, whether it's 1 or 2. But yeah, going back to that Rhodan, that longer shaft length is going to open up a whole new game for bigger boats. And when I say bigger boats, I'm talking larger than 25 foot, but it's also going to open up a large game for those 23 and 25 foot boats that want to fish a more wide range of conditions, not just when it's 1 to 2 foot and calm like a lake out. Let's be honest. Most of the time you're going, it's blowing in the afternoon and you get 3-foot chop on a beautiful day. Well, what do you do on the other days when it's a little bit bumpy? I guess you got to anchor. But that's been the way it's kind of, the cookies crumbled over time now. But sooner than later, when everything get released, we're going to see some people doing some new school stuff, which is getting out into more, say, gnarly conditions. I really shouldn't use the terminology gnarly, because I still think 4 foot, 5 foot swell would be the limit. If it's long period swell, no sweat. The most boats are going to ride kind of up and down and just kind of mosey on through that swell with no problem. It's that tight together chop where you're going to find issues with a shorter length or a shorter shaft trolling motor or GPS anchor, whatever you want to call it. Anybody with questions on trolling motors, feel free to reach out. I'm not sponsored. I'm just a user of Rhodan. I bought one myself, paid full retail. I bought it before we were a dealer at Fisherman's headquarters. So anybody who says, oh, the pro staff, blah, 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 it's all hogwash. I didn't get the thing for free. I'm not one of those guys that got one for free. I don't have 5 of them sitting in my garage broken because this broke, that broke, that broke, and I got them all for free. So I'll just keep on getting free ones and send them back. I don't have time for that. I put my own money into it. I did my research. I bought the best, what I feel is the best. Nothing against the other brands. I'm sure they make great products, but they weren't for me. So swag, yeah, man, you're always ball busting. Little gray in the beard. I know I'm getting old. Actually, my birthday's coming up, man. So feel free to maybe get me a little Just for Men or something. Little maybe that Sharpie marker I was talking about might work pretty good. So definitely shout out to swag. I heard you have some nice locally farm grown, family grown shrooms, some portobellos. I'm not the biggest mushroom fan, but feel free to share, man. It's all about the barter system these days. So maybe we can get a deal worked out. But yeah, I'm gonna grow out a little scruff here for the quarantine. We'll see how long this gets. That's kind of the old thing behind it. See, kind of counting the days here by the millimeters. So yeah, it doesn't seem like many questions. Joey Utschig, what's up, man? Haven't seen you in a while. It's been a long time. Hopefully you're holding it down. We definitely had some really, really good times fishing once upon a time over the years back in Montauk. I definitely remember some good times there. So shout out, what's up? Give you a little wave. Thanks everybody else for joining in. Hopefully I provided a little bit of information. If there's no questions here, maybe I will kick out. If you guys got a few questions, then maybe fire them at me. So Daniel mentions you got a question. Can you accept my live? I'm not really sure. So Schwag says, what's your question? It is long. So Daniel, I'm not sure, man. I didn't see you ask to jump on. I'm kind of new at this. I don't know if you're still there, how long ago this was. I wish you said how many minutes ago, because I think I was rambling while a lot of these messages were coming in. I just didn't want to instantly start scrolling down into messages and then be none and me look like an idiot. Like, oh, hey, guys, got messages, and then nothing's there. So, Dan, if you've got something, bro, either type it out, try to jump on. I got no problem sharing this live. It doesn't need to be you guys looking at me. I'd love to have somebody else jump on here and interact with you guys and talk like we were hanging out in the shop or like you guys were here at my house in my home office. So definitely a long question. I'm ready for it, man. Fire it at me. Connor, shout out, dude. Cortland Braid, definitely the best. I would have to agree. Cortland's been making line for lots and lots and lots of different brands over the years. There's a number of brand names you may have fished, may have heard, may have had friends using that were like, oh, this braid is awesome stuff. Guess what? They didn't make it. Cortland probably did. Power Pro, different story. But Cortland is a braided line manufacturer from, of all places, Cortland, New York. So shout out to Cortland. They make great quality line. They do not make a crazy number of lines. Like if you were to say to compare it with Power Pro, where they have original, super slick, which is the 8 carrier, depth hunter, Hollowcore, some of the newer ones, you've got like the Max Quattro, And I think I'm probably forgetting a couple other ones in there somewhere. But that being said, Cortland makes Master Braid. They do some other lines I'm not that familiar with, and the C16 Hollowcore. By far, in my opinion, the best big game Hollowcore Spectra you can buy. It's not the cheapest, but that's for good reason. You will not find, just say, half-ass splices. Just be frank about it. There's lots of Hollowcore lines that we have dealt with over the years where we're spooling, and you'll come across these just raggedy looking splices that are just pathetic. I would never ever let one of those go on a customer's reel. However, I know there's shops, don't want to mention any, but I know there's shops that just keep on going, man. Keep the pedal to the metal and keep spooling. I didn't see it, they didn't see it, hopefully they never see it. That's not how we roll. Cut it, we resplice it, and we make sure that's done right. So shout out to Cortland that we don't have to do that. If we ever come across one, promise you, we do it right. Major shout out to Blake at the shop, Cedar on Lures. He's a master splicer with Hollowcore line. Also Willie, WFTD on Instagram. Both those guys are dialed in with splicing Hollowcore line. If you ever need line spooled, spliced, be sure to reach out. I can help you guys out. They can help you out. If you want a little educational seminar sometime on how to properly splice, you may want to stop in once the quarantine's over. I'm not so sure it would work that good on Instagram Live. Just the small kind of whipping floss, the small kind of needles and Hollowcore, it might not work out all that good. With that being said, we did shoot a little bit of video. One of these days I'll find some time to put it together, maybe make a little splice video. There are some good ones on YouTube. However, some of the stuff I saw some of it's really bad. No disrespect, but it seems like just some people don't really know what they're doing. And I also see a lot of people making their own Hollowcore wind-on leaders, which use Hollowcore line, and are making loops incorrectly. So just word of advice, if somebody does a loop for you, test it. If somebody does a splice for you, test it. If somebody ever ties a knot for you, test it. And for that matter, if you tie your own knot, test it. You want that to break on land when you're testing and not when you're on the fish, kind of bent, stoked up, kind of hooting and hollering. Friend might be taking a picture of you and snap a doodle dandy. So shout out Connor. Thank you so much for giving Cortland a love. We love Cortland. And also shout out to Brooks. Congrats, just had a baby recently. I know with this whole quarantine thing going on, it's got to be tough. It'd be nice to get out and share your baby with the world, but I don't think that's doable right now. So Cortland has a wonderful person, Brooks, at their company. He's the main man that helps us out with sales, promotional stuff. He always helps us out. So maybe we'll give Brooks a little shout here and say, I think it's time we do a Cortland giveaway. Maybe we'll try to tag team up with a local Cortland Pro staff, such as Captain Jeff Warford. We were just talking about the Crimp blog. Maybe Real Innovations, Captain Jeff Warford will want to be part of this. Maybe his first mate, Dan Graham. I know Schwag, who's also on here, Schwagmatic, is also an ambassador. Maybe we can get a whole group together, get a little package deal donated from Brooksy. Let's go, Brooksy. Come on, give up the goods, and we'll put a nice giveaway out. So keep an eye out for that. I'll try to get something together here in the near future. We'll do a little Master Braid, maybe some Cortland Fluorocarbon, and maybe a Cortland hat. Make a nice little package deal. Get that out to you guys. So I think Daniel also reached out again saying, hey man, accept my question. Sorry, dude, I don't see your invite. I don't see it, but if you want, send it to me, whatever you want to do, and try to get you on. Another question from Amir Whitmer. I believe that's how you pronounce your name. Wants to know more about the trolling motors. Do they connect with Garmin? No, they do not. I have a Garmin unit, and it does not. I have a newer Garmin. Depending on which Garmin units you have, none of them connect. They are working, when I say they are, Simrad and Rhodan are working together with a software kind of integration. If you're looking for a unit that does integrate, if you've got Hummingbird electronics, their parent company, Johnson Outdoors, also makes Minn Kota. It's definitely one selling feature that if you have Minn Kota and you have a hummingbird, it's a big happy family linked together. That's cool. I've never had the need for it. I'm sure if I had it, I'd be like, this is great. This is awesome. This is next level stuff. But for me, I just use it as a GPS anchor, and I lock over a spot anchor, and I kind of jog around based on some points that I drop on my plotter when I kind of scope out the scene, kind of do a little search pattern, drop a couple points. I kind of set up on one, and then I arrow over to another point that I say, hey, let me check out this point. And it tells me, hey, that's at X amount of degrees at 30 feet. Click, 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 click. I'm getting there. Oh, look, check it out. I'm not even there yet, but I want some awesome stuff right here. Let's fish. Fishing slow, or hey, I want to be on this other piece or that. Click, 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 click. Couple beeps and you move. Every beep's 5 feet with Rhodan. You hit a beep forward, you're moving 5 feet to the bow. Back, 5 feet to the stern. Right, going to starboard. Left, going to port. It's a beautiful thing. If you want to set up like an autopilot kind of thing, there is a track mode. I'll have to admit, I have not spent enough time with mine learning it. I just always use the anchor mode, which is the A button. I also use the manual mode, which you hit M when it's deployed. Up is throttle up, down is throttle down. There's an unlimited number of speeds. I want to say it's like 30 something different speeds, but you push and hold it up and it ramps all the way up and it goes beep, beep, tells you it's at full throttle. Push it all the way down, ramps all the way down, basically to off, beep, beep, tells you it's off. You can hit once, boom, 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 in slow increments, and it will slowly creep up. It will slowly creep up for you. That is the manual mode. And left to right just turns that unit to port or starboard and stays there. But as far as like an autopilot, something like that, or to integrate it with your system to say, hey, I want to go to this point. Currently right now, the Rhodan does not integrate with Garmin. Maybe something in the future, but I would say that's a long way out. What is a short way out, which still could be a far way, is the integration with Simrad. And to the best of my knowledge, it's going to be only new Simrad. I think it all comes down to what the two companies can kind of come together with as far as the solution goes in terms of integrating each of their kind of electronics. I'll leave that for more of a technical talk with Rhodan or Simrad. It's something that's over my head. I don't own Simrad. I don't know much of that integration stuff with the unit because mine does not integrate. But I believe these new 96-inch units will have a future upgrade available in them to link together with Simrad. That's something that's coming in the future. Like I said, how far out? I don't know. You may want to send an email to Rhodan. If you really, really, really want to know, send me an email and I can try to get an answer from Rhodan for you. But I've never done it, and I'm in absolute love with my unit. So I think it's probably a great feature to have, but to me, it's not really necessary. I really like the simplicity of the Rhodan unit, how it's a standalone system. It doesn't depend on anything else. My GPS can go out. For some reason, it did go out once. I don't know why. I think I was really taking him on the chin, going out the inlet, and something happened. I forget exactly what, but I remember I lost my GPS. It went out once. I don't think it's a common thing that ever happened, but the standalone unit is very nice. It's right on my neck. It's a little key fob on the lanyard. Boom, 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 boom. Super convenient. If you want to check it out, I don't know if you're in the area, we can do a little mass kind of quarantine, social distance 6 feet apart, and you can check out my unit, my system, the wiring, the mounting, the batteries, the charger. If you're not local, you want to talk, you want some photos, we can send it back and forth. It's the beauty of modern day communication. Feel free to reach out. So any bait in New Jersey, that's CJB fishing, I would say there are some bait. There definitely is bunker around. I think I talked about this in a previous Instagram live. There are bunker in the bay. I have seen some bait. There's some birds working in the ocean. I had a surf today. Also surfed recently. In the past couple swells, we had a pretty good run of swells the last few weeks. There's some gannets around. They are working. I would assume they're on herring. I have not personally seen herring, but I know there's some herring going up some of the creeks in the local area and elsewhere. So this same time, the herring kind of do their thing. The perch also come around. Heads up, perch and herring are around. Herring are protected, perch are not. But please, if you are going perch fishing, don't fill buckets of them because there's no limit. Be responsible, like all anglers should be. No limit still means, catch what you and harvest what you reasonably see fit. However, save some for others. These fish are going up to spawn right now, so think that through and say, the more you catch and kill, potentially could be future fish. I'm not saying there's any epic bait piles. There's not fish teeing off on bait, but there's definitely some bait in the area, which is great. Any day, stuff's going to start happening. I think you'll see some more. There was some rumors. I think you'll see some bluefish show up. Heard of some down in Delaware. Shout out to whoever the Delaware fishing guide was that sent us a message, said, hey, I got one today. You guys might see him soon. With the weather being 2 weeks early, the fishing hopefully will be a little early too. Normally we would see bluefish kind of right around now, a couple kind of poke. So I'm hoping now that this storm kind of passed through, things are kind of settling down. Maybe we'll see a bluefish or two. Would be kind of cool. There's definitely some black drum around. Definitely some awesome photos going around of those. Maybe that's why someone's looking for some clam. Definitely it would be one of the better baits. Definitely heard of a couple weakfish, a little bit of a rumor. Did not see an actual photo. And even today's day, a photo doesn't mean much because people save so many photos from years past. But we had the moon pass just recently. I think on this next full moon, you could have a good run of tide runners. Fish responsibly if you are going after them. These are the few and far between fish that we have. Hopefully we'll see more spikes show up this summer. See some new recruitment in that fishery, which would be awesome. Bring me back to my childhood days of shrimping in Barnegat Bay, catching weakfish after weakfish after weakfish. Ton of fun. I wish I was older and I wish I lived through the good old days of weak fishing yesteryear. The stories that some of the regulars that I talk about are just eye-opening experiences about the weak fish they used to catch on the purple worms on a bucktail. No need for shrimping, no need to get kind of fancy. Just go out, fish the local channels, fish the sod banks, bucktail, purple worm. They used to roast weak fish all day long. So bass, yet absolutely there are bass here. Striped bass have been around for weeks, mostly in the back bay, mostly residents. There are some larger fish. I'm not going to say there's any epic crazy fishing like what has been going down in Rhodan Bay. I heard today was a little bit slow, possibly due to the downside of the moon. We're kind of getting right into the quarter right now, last quarter of the moon. Don't want to get into moon theory and whatnot, but my guess would be fish possibly could be up the rivers, getting their spawn on. Maybe give it a couple days and it tees off again. You get some fireworks in Rhodan Bay, like they had, say, in the previous days. So pre-spawn fish are loaded in the rivers. Absolutely, Rhodan Bay red hot. Thank you, Schwag, for staying on top of this. Evil Stevel, he's out of Staten Island. Shout out to Evil Stevel. He's the man. Ties some awesome teasers. If you guys are looking for some flags for the back of plugs, he's the man. Also makes some awesome lanyards for your pliers, boga grips, knives, any kind of tools, what have you. Reach out to Evil Stevel. He'll definitely make you some cool stuff. He says use regular mono for leader material. Shout out. No reason to use fluorocarbon if mono is working just fine for you. I use a lot of mono. Works really good for me. Not cinched down. It's affordable. You can blaze through spools of it every fishing trip, week in, week out, season in, season out. Fluorocarbon definitely gets expensive. But yeah, for sure. Evil Stevel, thank you for your tip. And if you guys want to check out his Instagram, like I said, he's got some cool stuff on there. You'll definitely see some quality fish he's been catching and releasing. Shout out to the catch and release crowd for supporting that. Got a little noser on. Don't worry, I don't have the corona. What's my personal best striped bass? 52 pounds, caught on a live bunker. Probably 2006, 2008 area. I should probably browse through my hard drive. I know I've got all these hard drives somewhere, and I could do like a little throwback Thursday, toss that up. Probably be a cool photo. I'm trying to think who I caught that with. I know it was definitely early morning. It was a really, really good day. It was in the springtime. We were snagging, live line, and bunker, which is, as Blake at Cedar Run Lures would say, Ray Charles style of fishing, which basically means it takes no skill. It's basically you live line a bait, a good fish bites it, or a not good fish bites it. Well, that day a good fish bit it, took off, gave me a great fight. I'll be honest, I've caught 30-pound fish that fought way, way, way harder. Gave me multiple runs, gave me a battle at the boat, gave me much, much more exciting time. I did not realize the size of the fish until it came up boat side and kind of almost turned on its belly. Not that it was kind of exhausted and spent. It was just such a slob. It had this big old belly on it. Kind of came up and just kind of flopped on its side like a whale. And I think it might have been with Captain Adam Shear. Shout out to Shear. I think he kind of just ran up, boga gripped that thing, popped it in the boat, snapped a couple photos of it, and back in the drink she went. So it was 52 in the boga. That day was oil slick calm. I remember the ocean was very, very, very calm. Memories back to that awesome day. Really all those years. I think 2005 to 2008 was some of the best striped bass fishing that I may have experienced. I know when I was younger, fishing was tough, and it definitely got really good in those years. And I have to say there was a point in time where there was very few anglers that were focused on early morning bunker pod fishing. It was something that wasn't, I'll say, mainstream. People went out, put the trolling gear in, went up the beach, went down the beach, did their zigzag, caught some fish, went in, did what they did. There was very, very few anglers that went out, dark 30, and were working these pods in the dark. I'm not talking sunrise. I'm talking gray light and earlier. Big fish rolling on top, splashing everywhere, full on mayhem, fishing pencil poppers. Might have been some of my first experiences, my first introductions to fishing big, big, big lures. I'm not talking 6 and 8 inch lures. I'm talking 12-inch wooden plugs, even bigger, 3 and 4 ounce lures, big slob wood plugs, pencil poppers, big, big metal lips, trollers and whatnot. In 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, I'm talking way before this was like this cool, trendy thing that popped up in, I don't know, a couple years ago. Definitely stoked that I lived those years. Definitely stoked that I was introduced to these fishing kind of techniques and these fisheries by some very awesome people. Captain Adam would be one for sure. So thank you for that. I know we definitely had a number of days for a long time there. I think we were meeting up just about every morning, a couple years in a row there, fishing the spring runs, getting out early. And I think we were back to the dock at 10 o'clock every day. And then we got to kind of the everyday life on land, getting work done. I think I was in college at some of those years. Definitely good times. So to answer your question, 52 on that PB, that was R. Grimshaw. I'm not sure what I just did, but let me scroll through these. So I got 2 minutes left, guys. I'll try to go through here a little bit. 27-pound fish, if that's yours, bro. That's a nice fish, man. Awesome, awesome fish. Definitely, dude, keep up the dedication. Keep up keeping your tackle in tip-top shape. Make sure your rods are dialed in, no chipped guides. Make sure your reels are dialed in. Nice smooth drags, nice fresh line. No corrosion, no bunked up bearings. No sticky, wonky drags. When you get a better fish, it comes along. You're prepared, I think you'll get it, man. So you'll up those numbers. Maybe you'll double it. That'd be pretty cool. So definitely give you props for 27, and I hope you, I hope I raise you some here on your next outing or your next season. So good luck, brother. Abrasion resistance for tog fishing, I would definitely agree. Yozuri HD fluorocarbon is very, very good. It's not the cheapest, but it's very good fluorocarbon. Any news on surf clams? No. Fishing access and LBI. So we got 45 minutes left. I'll do this quick. Everywhere on LBI is closed. However, there are 2 municipalities that are open. One is at the north end. It's Barnegat Light. The Barrow beaches are open. And Surf City, the town beaches are open. The Barnegat Lake State Park is closed. I don't want to go into this too much more, but other towns are closed unless you are a resident and have access to that, we'll call it emergency tag. But if you want to fish the LBI surf, there is access. You must be safe. You must practice social distancing. Go fish. Be safe. Thank you. Checking out.